What's going on, YouTube? Back again. This is part 2 of this build. This truck has no name yet, so it's just Trailfinder 2. And the last episode, first episode, bobbed the bed 22mm. And I just want to reiterate, I've been getting a little bit of flack for the glue I've used or the way I cut it. Guys, there's no wrong way to do this. It's because you have a better way. That's great. I appreciate sharing, but this is the way I did it, and I'm not going for a show truck. This is going to be a weekend warrior, a purpose-built crawler. It's going to have rust and dings and scratches and scrapes all over it. I don't care if I can still see the seam. That's kind of the point, and that's what this video is going to be about. Is we're going to use this seam and we're going to make it rusty, and like we just don't care because it's just a weekend rock crawler. So my ideas for this, I'm thinking I'm going to do, well, first of all, okay, there's glue bulged out, and that's on purpose. It's why I use that thick gel glue, because it bulges out of the seam when it dries and hardens. So my idea is, once that's rusted over and you can't see the white plastic or the glue, it's going to look like a bare weld it's just rusted, or we can primer that little strip, and yeah, it's going to look like somebody doesn't give a shit. That's the idea of it. It's going to be a rock crawler, so you need the departure angle, so you cut your bed, you weld it up, and you keep on crawling. So first thing I'm going to do, though, before we get to doing that, is I've got to decide how much of the rear I want to cut off. Now, I was thinking I'd cut it up to the tailgate and angle down here on the rear rockers, but I'm not sure how far I want to go. So I'm going to do some little bit of research here online, looking at pictures and stuff, see what I can find, what looks right. Alright, guys, I picked the angle, I cut it. Now the frame rails are just right there, so my new bumper I'm going to make can mount directly to that, and I'm going to have some side protection. And I'm not sure yet exactly what extent of an exo cage or roll bar system I'm going to do. I haven't got that far yet in the planning. Just taking it one step at a time. So next thing on the agenda is I'm going to widen out the tire wells a little bit. I don't need a whole lot on the back since I've cropped the rocker. I'm just going to take some of that lip off of there. The front is going to need a little trimming back, and the some of that fat lip off of there as well. So, oh, sorry, you can see the front's going to definitely have some rubbing issues once we get some flex onto this thing. My plan is to get this whole thing, bodywork done, get the cage, bumpers, then get it running, get drivetrain, battery, electronics in it, and then we'll start tuning the suspension. Because once I need to know how much weight it's going to carry, depending on what kind of roll bar I do. You know, it's good to have all the weight down when we start setting up the leaf springs. That way we get the right amount of flex, not too top heavy. I don't think we'll have that problem with scale leaf springs, but you never know. So I'm going to take a Dremel to the tire wells and do a little finagling around. Alright, guys, got the back cut, and I trimmed out the fender wells slightly. I mean, they just kind of come to a point now instead of having that flat edge. I went ahead and got a paint marker and did all the edges flat black so you can't see the white plastic. And there's a better shot of the rear. The rear looks funny, but it'll look better once I build the bumper. So now the next step is going to be fixing our bob marks. So I'm going to gather up stuff and we'll figure out what we're going to do. Alright, guys, so here's what we're looking at. I've got my Vallejo pigment binder. and I've got my burnt umber pigment, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to dip in binder, run some down our seam, go to the inside a little bit as well, and I'm going to dip in my burnt umber pigment and start dabbing it. Looks like I'm just smearing mud around, but what I'm shooting for is this to look like a bare exposed weld. It's rusted out in the rain and mud and all that good stuff. So I've done the other side already. I've got to give it 2 coats. I didn't have to, but I wiped a little aggressively the first time. So I'll flip it around and show you what the finished product looks like while that side's drying. This is what I got. I think it looks pretty good. I like it kind of chunky, dirty. I do think I'm going to weather this truck a little bit more. Now this was one of my experiment trucks that I'd done a long time ago before I really had much product and knew what I was doing. I'm not saying I know what I'm doing, but I've learned a lot since this. So I'm going to add some rust pigment to the hood and the roof, and I'm going to do the whole thing with a flat wash. Try to dull it down because it's still got a few little shiny places on it. But I like the way that looks. To me, that's what I wanted. I want it to look like a rusty seam. You know, in 10 years the back of the truck will fall off. I was going to primer it, but I don't know. I did that on the previous truck that I had bobbed a couple years ago, and it didn't look right. Even though it was a serious crawler, it just looked funny with the primer spots here and there. So I'm just going to go all natural here. So I'm going to go ahead and let this side dry complete, and I'm going to finish up the other side. And I think I'm going to start weathering some more stuff on it. Alright guys, so I went ahead and weathered the entire truck off camera. Just something I like to do. If you're curious how I did it, I've got, I think, 3 videos up. One on the Blazer, one on D110, and one on Land Cruiser, showing my processes that I use to do it. You can check those out. This one I just didn't. This one's already been weathered before, and I can't remember exactly what I used and all that. So I just did my normal routine with my Vallejo pigment and my pigment binders. I've got pigment binder, and I've got black pigment, a little bit of yellow ochre, and a little bit of burnt umber. So I used the burnt umber and the black a lot, and just did highlight areas of the yellow. It's hard to tell because it's still wet. There's a little yellow on the flat panels, a little on the hood, a little on the roof. Not much. It's hard. It looks a little noticeable until it dries, and then the entire truck kind of dulls down because the pigment binder acts as a dulling agent. So I think it's going to be all right. But in the meantime, I'm trying to show you the hood. Hood could have been better. I had a hole because this body used to be on our Bruiseruptor frame, which mounts like a bruiser, so it had the one body clip to the hood, so it had been drilled out. But yeah, I think it's gonna be all right. I really like this side. I'd already done some rust repair on this section here, so it really stands out now. And our nasty looking welds here look pretty rough. So I think it's gonna be good. Alright guys, the weathering's starting to dry. So I'm gonna wrap this video up here. In the next installment we will start on some tube work. I think I'm gonna start with the rear bumper. See what we can come up with. I'm gonna try to keep it simple, yet practical. It's gonna have a function. So I'm all about the function over form. It's just, I guess I'm a practical person. So anyways, thank y'all for watching, and please like, subscribe, and share, and check me out on Instagram for sneak peeks at videos before they're out, and I'm also on Facebook. Thank y'all for watching RC Every Day.